The midterms are also just 28 days away now, and in Ohio, it was a fiery first debate last night between Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan and Republican J.D. Vance. Both candidates for U.S. Senate accused the other of being responsible for job losses and putting party loyalty ahead of voters' needs. For more on this, let's bring in CBS News reporter Sarah Ewall-Wice, who covered that debate for us. It was quite a night to see them discuss these issues. And one of the things they discussed, abortion rights, certainly on the ballot this election day. And before we get into that, here's a bit of what both candidates had to say on the issue.
I don't know if we have the sound.
I support going back to Roe v. Wade. That was established law for 50 years. And we didn't have all the chaos that we're having now.
Ohio's going to want to have different abortion laws than California, than Texas, and I think Ohio should have that right. But some minimum national standard is totally fine with me.
So, Sarah, let me ask you first, what did Vance mean there by minimum national standard? Can you talk about that?
Yes. So in the context of the question, he was asked specifically about Senator Lindsey Graham's proposal for a 15-week abortion ban at the federal level. He did not specifically say where he stood on 15 weeks, but as you heard him say, he does support a minimum at the federal level. This is something that the candidates went back and forth over in Ohio. When it comes to J.D. Vance, he has made some previous remarks that have been extremely controversial on the issue of abortion. He's compared it to slavery. He has argued against the need for exceptions for rape or incest. But last night, he did say there should be some exceptions, and he didn't really get into what those exceptions should be. He did talk about the case that we all saw the horrific headlines on the 10-year-old girl in Ohio who had to leave the state for an abortion. And he said in her case, she should be able to get an abortion. But his previous comments have contradicted some of the situation with that case. And so it really was a question of where exactly he does stand. And Congressman Ryan really went after him on this issue. Keep in mind, Congressman Ryan did talk about how he wants to go back to the outline that was done in Roe versus Wade that was overturned by the Supreme Court. But he was also asked about the fact that he has said in 2009 that he was pro-life. And he was saying how he had met with women, heard their stories, and that is what's changed his mind on this issue since then and now.
Ryan and Vance also kind of went back and forth over the investigation into former President Trump and his false claims of election fraud. Now, Vance is being supported by Trump. He gave him the thumbs up. And just to give people a little background, you know, he was kind of critical of Donald Trump when he was peddling his book, Hillbilly Elegy, but he sort of switched things a little bit once he started to campaign, and he wanted, you know, Donald Trump to sort of back him up and support him. So what did both of the candidates have to say about the validity of the American election system and the rise of extremism?
Yes. You know, I will start with saying this. Both candidates were asked about whether they would support the results of this election, of this midterm, and both of them said that they would. But they did talk about the investigations into President Trump. Of course, J.D. Vance slammed the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, as a political figure in terms of those investigations into the president. But Congressman Ryan also went after J.D. Vance, said that he would not stand up to anyone, including President Trump. He talked about him going to the rally and President Trump taking away J.D. Vance's dignity, and J.D. Vance still getting on the stage with him and sucking up and shaking his hand. And, you know, he has been campaigning, J.D. Vance has been campaigning with the president. I mentioned a rally that happened over the summer, earlier this fall. That was one instance, but they really have been out on the campaign trail. Previously, during the primary, he also had the president's endorsement in that tough primary as well. Something to keep in mind here is the other aspect of this is they talked about crime and being pro-cop or pro-police. And Congressman Ryan really went after J.D. Vance on this also because he talked about how Vance had been raising funds for the January 6th insurrectionists. And he said you can't be pro-cop and pro-insurrectionist talking about that and tying that in as well. Ryan really spoke to the fact that he's trying to confront extremism and trying to stand with what he called the exhausted majority. And he mentioned Republicans, Democrats, and independents in that.
And when he talked about sort of taking away his dignity, it has to do with a rally where the president couldn't remember J.D. Vance's sort of first initials. He was like, it's JP, right? He just kind of, and this is the guy that he was there to support, you know, and encourage people to vote for.
No, definitely not the best way to go about it. But Sarah, I also wanted to ask you and follow up on this note. At the same time that we're seeing Congressman Ryan go about this, he's also been trying to distance himself from Democrats. So is that unusual? Is that strategy working for him? How is it playing out?
You know, in this midterm cycle, this is not an unusual play by some of the Senate candidates on the Democratic side. They have been trying to distance themselves from President Biden. President Biden has been suffering from low approval ratings, including specifically low approval on the economy. And Democrats have been shown in multiple polls to be less trusted than Republicans on the economy. When it comes to this Ohio Senate race, one of the things that has been top of mind for voters and is front and center for the candidates running has been the economy. Congressman Ryan has been really trying to push talks about trade, manufacturing, jobs, and the economy, specifically in Ohio, as he runs, which means he does have to distance himself from the president, who has not been popular. And keep in mind that President Biden did not win Ohio in 2020. He did not win, the Democrat did not win Ohio in 2016. President Trump won in both of those years. So he kind of has to thread a needle here in terms of winning as a Democrat in the state, and he's trying to do so, and he's certainly not the only one in a year where Republicans are not in the majority, which means they have a better chance of reclaiming the majority in a midterm cycle when it comes to running against Democrats. And they have been trying to tie most of these Democratic candidates to President Biden and to the challenges in the economy, specifically talking about inflation.
And there are so many tight races right now
Yes.
with candidates that are just vastly different from each other. Sarah, it's always great having you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And tonight on Red and Blue, Democratic Senate candidate and current Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan will be on the stream. You can catch that conversation about the debate and his push to take Ohio's soon-to-be-open Senate seat at 5 p.m. Eastern.